help him! He can't breathe!
Move. Don't breathe on him. The words cracked across the boarding lane, loud enough to turn heads. The boy beside the woman was already trembling, shoulders hunched, fingers fluttering at his collar like the air was choking him. Nia Robinson stopped mid-step. She was 19, dark-skinned black, slim and quietly composed, in a thrifted black hoodie under a faded denim jacket and scuffed sneakers. A small backpack hung from one shoulder, a creased paperback in her hand. Calm was her only armor, and she wore it tight. She was coming home after months volunteering at a neighborhood clinic, certified as an emergency responder through a scholarship program. Her laminated ID sat in her wallet, hidden behind a library card. Proof she could help, but not a badge she ever flashed. She'd learned that on planes, uniforms got respect, and skin color got suspicion, so she kept her head down and her voice gentle, even when her chest tightened. Tonight she only wanted her seat, her window, and quiet. She had promised her mother she would never trade dignity for safety. The woman blocking her was Lillian Vance, 42, pale-skinned, polished, and expensive, tailored coat, diamond studs, glossy hair, the posture of someone used to being obeyed. She didn't look at Nia as a person. She scanned her like a problem. "Ma'am," Nia said softly, keeping distance. "He looks like he's having a panic." "Oh, please!" Lillian's laugh was thick with sarcasm. "Another little hero with a charity voice." She aimed her words at Nia's clothes. "I don't need advice from someone who looks like they crawled out of a bargain bin." Phones rose. A few passengers gasped. The terminal lights hummed, indifferent. Nia kept her hands visible. "I'm not trying to offend you. Space and slow breathing can help." "Space?" Lillian clicked her tongue. "The only space I want is between my child and you." Her eyes narrowed. "You people always helping. When nobody asked, hovering like you're entitled to touch what isn't yours." The boy made a thin, panicked sound, eyes wet and unfocused. This wasn't a tantrum. It was fear. Nia's voice stayed steady. "I can step back, but he needs air. If you loosen his collar—" "Don't tell me how to parent," Lillian snapped, then turned theatrical for the crowd. "Everyone saw this, right? She approached my minor son. I feel unsafe." Nia's stomach dropped. The accusation wasn't just mean. It was dangerous. A lie could become handcuffs. A gate agent stepped forward. "Ma'am, please calm down. We can assist your child." Lillian swung to the agent with a smile that didn't touch her eyes. "Document this under airline policy. This is a commercial airline, not a shelter. My family is boarding for the first-class cabin, and I'm not having my child harassed by some random girl playing nurse." Nia blinked once. She wasn't in the priority lane. Her ticket placed her in general boarding, but Lillian spoke like money could edit reality. "I didn't touch him," Nia said. "I only spoke." Lillian's lips curled. "That's what people like you always say. Then you cry passenger rights when security drags you away. It's a whole routine." The boy's breathing hitched. He clawed at his collar, face flushing, a strangled sound catching in his throat. Then the panic surged. He began screaming, uncontrolled, raw, terrified. The sound sliced through the terminal. Conversations died. Even the gate agent froze. Instead of soothing him, Lillian stabbed a finger toward Nia. "See? You upset him. You brought your street energy over here, and now look." Her contempt sharpened. "Why are you even in this line? Go sit with your kind and stop reaching for what you can't afford." Nia felt the old instinct. Shrink, apologize, disappear, claw at her ribs. She refused. She took one slow step back to give space, then spoke, low only to the boy. "Hey, look at me! In through your nose, out through your mouth, you're safe!" "Don't you talk to him," Lillian barked, and shoved her luggage like a barrier. "Security!" she shouted. "Remove her!" The gate agent lifted a radio, uncertain. The crowd watched like it was entertainment. Nia stood still, hands open, voice calm. while the boy's screams bounced off glass and steel. Inside, fear tried to bloom, but she pressed it down with the sentence her mother had stitched into her spine. Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves. Defend the rights of the poor and needy. Proverbs 31:8-9. Nia lifted her chin. Ma'am, I'm stepping back. But don't block help while your son is struggling. If you want policy, we can follow policy. For a beat, Lillian looked startled, like she expected tears, not clarity. Then her smile returned, sharp. Oh, we'll follow policy, she said. And you'll learn your place. That was the moment the terminal shifted. A man in a tailored suit stepped out from the priority lane. Corporate calm, expensive watch, airline badge half hidden. He looked at Lillian, then at Nia, and smiled like he already knew who would lose. If you have ever been judged by your clothes, your skin, or your silence, then what happens next? When power turns procedure into a weapon, will make you furious. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and stay with Dignity Voices to follow how dignity fights back. Because the moment that man spoke into the radio, the next began, and Nia's nightmare stopped being personal. It became official. The man in the tailored suit didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He stepped out of the priority lane like he'd been waiting for permission to take control, adjusting his cufflinks as if the terminal belonged to him. Graham stopped beside Lillian and offered a corporate smile. Mrs. Vance, I'm sorry you're dealing with this. Lillian's anger snapped into performance. Dealing with it? She barked. My child is being harassed in public by that girl. She didn't say Nia's name. Her finger did it for her. Graham's eyes slid to Nia, cold, assessing, almost bored. What happened? He asked the gate agent, still smiling. The agent started, Sir, She approached my minor son, Lillian cut in, voice trembling with practiced victimhood. She tried to talk to him, get close to him. He's sensitive. He's in distress. I want her removed. Nia kept her hands visible. I didn't touch him. He was struggling to breathe. I offered help. Graham nodded slowly, as if he'd heard this excuse 1,000 times. Help. Right. The boy screamed again, sharp, ragged, frightening, and the line tightened. People flinched. Phones rose higher. Nia tried once more, calm and direct. He needs space and air. His collar. Stop talking, Lillian's hissed. Then she turned toward the cameras like she'd found her stage. Why is she still standing here? This is unbelievable. Graham angled his body, subtly blocking Nia from the child, as if the barrier itself proved something. He lowered his voice to the agent. Standard procedure. De-escalate. Quickly. The agent hesitated. Sir, she hasn't violated anything. She's in the correct boarding group. Graham's smile didn't move, but his tone cooled. Standard procedure, he repeated, and the agent's shoulders tightened. Then Graham faced Nia, polite as a blade. Miss, step out of the boarding lane. Nia didn't move. I'm a ticketed passenger. I'm not causing trouble. The airline has an obligation to keep a safe environment, Graham said, loud enough to sound fair. When a complaint involves a minor, we act. A complaint isn't proof, Nia replied. Lillian scoffed. Listen to her, acting like she knows anything. Graham kept his eyes on Nia. If you cooperate, this stays simple. Nia understood simple, quiet, private, unrecorded. I'm not leaving the gate area without a reason. The reason, Graham said, is that a first-class family reported feeling unsafe. Status, dressed up as safety. The boy's screaming cracked into a wheeze. His hands clawed at his collar, face flushing. Nia's voice sharpened with urgency, not anger. He needs medical attention. Lillian laughed, contempt dripping. Medical attention? He needs you gone. You're not a medic. You're just some broke little nobody trying to play savior for attention. Nia swallowed the insult and kept her focus. Ma'am, I'm stepping back, but don't block help while he's struggling. Don't tell me what to do, Lillian snapped. And don't call me ma'am like we're equals. Graham lifted a hand toward the side corridor. 2 contract security officers appeared in airport blue uniforms. One carried plastic restraint cuffs openly, a threat disguised as policy. Graham spoke as if he were offering options. We'll do a brief check. Step aside, answer a few questions, and we'll determine whether you can board. Determine? Nia echoed. Based on what? Based on conduct, Graham said, and cooperation. Lillian leaned in, voice sweet and poisonous. People who belong don't argue. People who don't belong get processed. Nia looked at the gate agent, then at the phones. Document everything, she said clearly. If you're going to do this, do it in public. For a fraction of a second, Graham's expression flickered, annoyance that she wouldn't vanish neatly. Then he nodded once. Fine. The first officer stepped forward. Ma'am, come with us. I will walk, Nia said. Do not touch me. The officer's voice stayed flat. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. I'm choosing the lawful way, Nia replied. Lillian rolled her eyes. Oh my God, the drama. It's always drama with you people. Always talking about rights when you should be grateful you're even allowed on this plane. A few passengers shifted, uncomfortable. The boy coughed hard, brittle and wet, and his screams dipped into desperate gasps. The assistant hovered, panicked, glancing between Lillian and Nia like he knew the wrong person was being punished. Nia's gaze snapped to the child. She spoke softly, only to him. Hey, in through your nose. Out slow, you're safe. Don't you talk to him, Lillian shrieked. Security, remove her! Graham lifted his hand again. Enough. The first officer reached for Nia's wrist anyway. Nia stiffened. I said don't touch me. Ma'am, the officer warned, resisting will escalate. I'm not resisting, Nia said. You're grabbing me. Graham's calm voice cut in. Surgical. She's non-compliant. The label landed like a stamp, turning a person into a problem. The second officer stepped in behind Nia, crowding her space. The first officer tightened his grip and produced the plastic cuff. The gate agent blurted, Sir, maybe we should... Graham didn't look at him. Proceed. Click. The cuff snapped around Nia's wrist. Not tight enough to bruise, tight enough to humiliate, tight enough to tell the crowd, this is official, so it must be right. Nia's throat burned. She kept her eyes dry. She lifted her cuffed hand slightly toward the phones and said, clear and steady, I did not touch him. I offered help. This is punishment for being near the wrong people. Lillian exhaled, satisfied. Good. Get her out of here before she spreads her nonsense. Graham nodded to the officers. Escort her out of the lane. Now. They guided Nia toward the side corridor, still visible, still public, because Graham understood optics. If humiliation looks like procedure, most people will call it justice. As Nia was walked away, the boy's breathing turned choppy again. His screams rose, higher, thinner, like the air was running out. Nia took one slow breath, refusing to shrink, because she knew what came next. The aircraft door would close, and the consequences would be trapped in the sky. And cameras kept rolling, hungry, as if pain were content. If you've ever watched power twist procedure into a weapon, if you've ever been treated like a suspect for simply existing near someone else's privilege, then what happens next will make you furious. Don't forget to like and subscribe and stay with Dignity Voices, because this isn't just humiliation. It's a setup. Graham leaned to the gate agent and murmured 2 words that changed Nia's flight from unfair to dangerous. Flag her ticket. By the time boarding resumed, the terminal had already decided what Nia was. Not because anyone had facts, because they had a story. A story shouted by Lillian, stamped by Graham, and enforced by uniforms that never asked for proof. The plastic cuff was gone, but the memory of it still hugged Nia's wrist like a phantom bruise as a contract officer escorted her back to the scanner, smiling like this was customer service. At the podium, the gate agent took her boarding pass with hands that trembled. His eyes flicked toward the priority lane like he was waiting for approval. The scanner beeped. Then the screen flashed. Flag. The agent swallowed. It's flagged. Nia kept her voice even. Flagged for what? He lowered his tone. Behavioral concern. Notes were added. Graham stepped in, calm as a press release. Miss Robinson, he said, smiling. Let's make this easy. Remove the flag, Nia replied. Graham's smile didn't move. That's not how this works. Lillian appeared at his shoulder, glittering with satisfaction. She thinks she can demand things, she said, like she matters. Nia didn't take the bait. I didn't touch your child. I offered help. Lillian scoffed. You offered drama. Graham lifted a hand, performing fairness for the phones. You are permitted to board. However, you will follow crew instructions without deviation. You will not approach the Vance family. You will remain seated unless directed otherwise. Any non-compliance will be documented. So a lie becomes a restriction, Nia said. A complaint becomes a precaution, Graham corrected. Then he leaned closer, voice for her alone. You want to go home? Keep your head down. You blink wrong on this flight and you'll be on a no-fly list. Nia felt cold anger rise, then pressed it flat with one slow breath. Document that threat, too. Graham's smile thinned. Board. Nia stepped onto the jet bridge with her backpack tight on her shoulder and a paperback in hand, like a shield. The corridor smelled of rubber and recycled air, and every footstep echoed. Inside the aircraft, the lights were bright, clinical. A lead flight attendant stood at the forward galley with a tablet angled like a judge's bench. Her eyes slid from Nia's face to the red-coded note, then back again. Seat 28B, the attendant said. No greeting. Middle. Remain seated during boarding. Nia nodded once and walked. Passing the curtain, she glimpsed the first-class cabin. Wide seats, softer light. Graham was already settled across the aisle from Lillian, as if this flight were his office. Lillian adjusted her blanket and watched Nia pass with a small, triumphant smile, like humiliation was a service she'd purchased. Nia kept moving to the back, where the hum of the engines felt closer, and the air smelled faintly of coffee and disinfectant. She slid into 28B between a tired man and an older woman holding a rosary. She buckled in, placed her paperback on her lap, and kept her hands visible, still, careful, controlled. The plane pushed back. The engines rose. The aircraft lifted into a clean climb. Then the screaming started again. At first it was muffled behind the curtain, front cabin. Then it sharpened into something that filled the fuselage. Not impatience. Panic. A toddler began crying in response. Someone muttered a curse. Heads turned. The intercom chimed, and a flight attendant's voice floated out, too sweet to match the sound. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. Nia's fingers tightened on the paperback. Her instincts mapped the noise, the brakes, the breath, the strain, distress, escalation. Call buttons chimed in multiple rows. The lead attendant marched down the aisle, fast and tense. When she reached row 28, she looked at Nia first, before she looked at anyone else. Yes, the attendant snapped. The older woman beside Nia whispered, It sounds like he can't breathe. The attendant's eyes stayed on Nia. Remain seated, she ordered. I am seated, Nia said. Remain seated, the attendant repeated, like Nia's existence was movement. Do not involve yourself. I'm not trying to, Nia replied carefully. But if it's medical... The attendant leaned closer, voice low and sharp. You were an issue at the gate. Do you want to be an issue at 30,000 feet? Behind the curtain, Graham's calm voice carried. Is she standing again? She was instructed to stay seated. Lillian's voice followed, contempt dressed as certainty. She can't help herself, always reaching. A few phones lifted. Nia felt heat rise in her face, but she didn't move. She kept her hands open on her lap like evidence. The attendant tapped on her tablet. "I'm writing an in-flight report," she said. "Any further non-compliance will result in restraint." Restraint. The word tasted like plastic. Nia's throat tightened, but her voice stayed level. If you restrain the wrong person while a child is struggling to breathe, that's not safety. That's corporate negligence. The attendant's eyes widened, then hardened. "Excuse me?" Nia didn't raise her volume. She raised her clarity. "And there will be legal accountability for what's happening, from the gate to this cabin. Put that in your report, too." Silence rippled across the row. Up front, the screaming dipped into a thin, frightening quiet, followed by a wet, choking gasp. The cabin went still. Even the attendant froze, head tilted, listening. Nia closed her eyes for one heartbeat and anchored herself. "Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good." Romans 12:21. She opened her eyes. The attendant finally turned toward the front, uncertainty slipping into her posture. Because now it was obvious. This wasn't inconvenience. This was emergency. Frantic voices erupted behind the curtain, someone shouting for oxygen, someone pleading. Nia's pulse spiked, steady and sharp. The seatbelt sign pinged on, and a light tremor ran through the cabin. Nia stayed planted, jaw tight, counting breaths, refusing to give them a headline while her conscience screamed to stand tonight. They had flagged her to silence her. But the sky didn't care about privilege. If that boy stopped breathing, everyone on this aircraft would learn the cost of punishing help. If you've ever watched a system punish the person trying to do right, if you've ever seen power hide behind reports and protocol, don't look away. What happens next will make you furious, and then it will make you cheer. Like, subscribe, and stay with Dignity Voices. Because the next sound from behind that curtain wasn't screaming anymore. It was a flight attendant's panic, shouting for oxygen, followed by the captain's voice over the intercom. "Is there a qualified medical responder on board?" The cabin held its breath after the captain's order. "Send the qualified responder forward, now." For a beat, nobody moved, not because they hadn't heard him, but because the sentence rearranged power. The cockpit had spoken, and suddenly, the aisle wasn't Graham's hallway anymore. Nia rose with controlled urgency, palms open, shoulders squared. She didn't rush or shove. She moved with the calm precision of someone trained to keep fear from spreading. Faces turned toward her like a spotlight. The lead flight attendant hesitated, jaw tight, then forced the words out. "Follow me." Nia nodded once. "Thank you." They started forward. The attendant walked fast enough to pressure, not fast enough to help. And Nia stayed one measured step behind so witnesses could see she wasn't forcing anything. She was being escorted. They passed rows of passengers craning over seatbacks. Some filmed, some whispered. Nia kept her gaze forward, refusing to react to the murmurs that tried to pull her into shame. At the curtain, the attendant pressed the fabric aside with 2 fingers. She glanced back, eyes hard. "Don't speak unless you have to. Don't touch anything unless I tell you." Nia's voice stayed level. "If he's struggling to breathe, I'll do what's necessary." "You'll do what you're allowed," the attendant snapped. They stepped into the first-class cabin, where the lighting was softer and the air felt colder. The boy's distress filled the space. He was curled against the window-side pod, face flushed, eyes wide, mouth working in a choking rhythm that wasn't quite a scream anymore, just failed air and fear. Lillian hovered over him, frantic now, but still sharp. "Do something," she shouted at the crew. "He can't breathe." A flight attendant fumbled with an oxygen bottle, hands shaking. Another knelt too close, talking too fast. "Sir, take a deep breath, deep breath." He couldn't. Nia scanned quickly. Color, posture, the way his throat tightened on each inhale. She knew what mattered and what didn't. Graham stood in the aisle like a gate, posture relaxed, expression controlled. When he saw Nia, his calm cracked into irritation. "No," he said, lifting a palm as if he could stop her with air. Absolutely not. Lillian snapped her head toward Nia. Stay back. Don't touch my son. You already caused enough. Nia kept her hands visible. I haven't touched him. I'm here because he's in distress. Because you want attention, Lillian hissed. You want to play hero in first class. The lead attendant tried to sound neutral. The captain ordered a qualified responder forward. Graham cut in, voice smooth and dangerous. She's flagged. She's not cleared. You're bringing her up here to create a scene. The intercom chimed again, the captain's tone now edged. Cabin crew, status. The lead. Attendant swallowed into her handset. Captain, we have a responder at the scene. Graham snapped louder. Tell him we have staff. Tell him she's not authorized. Nia didn't argue with Graham. She addressed the attendant holding oxygen. Bring the mask near his face first, not over it. Coach the pace. Don't force it. The attendant blinked, startled by competence. Okay, Lillian barked. Don't listen to her. But the oxygen attendant shifted anyway, because the boy's eyes were rolling with panic and the crew needed something that sounded certain. Nia took one careful step forward. Graham shifted to block her. Move, Nia said quietly. Graham's eyes narrowed. Excuse me? Move, she repeated. You're between him and help. For the first time, the cabin's attention landed on Graham as an obstacle, not a savior. He glanced around, sensing it. The captain's voice returned, sharper. If a qualified responder is present, I want them assisting. Immediately. The lead attendant's shoulders dropped with a reluctant surrender. Mr. Kells, step aside. Graham's jaw clenched. He moved half a step, as if even yielding was negotiation. Nia slid past him and knelt beside the boy, angling her body so she wasn't looming. She spoke low, only for him. Hey, you're not in trouble. I'm going to help your breathing. Look at me for 1 second. His eyes flickered toward her, then away, then back, like a drowning person choosing a hand. Nia held up 2 fingers. Match this. In and out. Just follow me. She didn't touch him yet. She earned permission with tone and pace. Lillian hovered, voice trembling. Don't. Nia glanced up briefly. Ma'am, lower your voice. He's reacting to noise. How dare you? Lillian started. Please, Nia said, firmer, still calm. For him. The boy coughed, wet, violent, then tried to inhale and failed. Nia nodded to the oxygen attendant. Here. She guided with words, not hands. Let him see it. Don't push. The oxygen hissed softly. The boy stared at the mask, then at Nia. Nia made her breathing slow and visible. Good. 1 breath with me. His inhale caught, then finally expanded. Not full, but real. The cabin quieted as if everyone had been waiting for that one sound. A second breath came, shaky, but present. The boy's shoulders dropped a fraction, terror thinning into exhaustion. Graham's voice cut in, tense and resentful. If anything happens to him, Nia didn't look up. Then let me work. She kept her tone gentle for the boy. You're safe. Keep matching me. Another breath came, then another. The choking rhythm softened. Behind her, the lead attendant spoke into the handset. Voice changed. Captain, the responder is assisting. He's improving. And for the first time since the gate, the plane wasn't watching Nia as a problem. It was watching her as the reason a child was still breathing. But Nia felt the danger remain, because humiliation doesn't disappear just because you're useful. It waits. And Graham, standing in that aisle with his pride bruised, wasn't done trying to control the story. The seatbelt sign pinged on as the aircraft hit a brief pocket of turbulence, a shudder. The boy startled, breath hitching, and Nia slowed her own pace, visible inhale, longer exhale, inviting his body to follow. It worked. His fingers unclenched from the blanket. Graham leaned toward the lead attendant, voice tight. Record this. The moment we land, I want a report. Names. The attendant glanced at Nia, then away, caught between bias and what everyone was witnessing. The captain's voice returned, calmer but firm. "Responder, identify yourself to crew." Nia kept her focus on the boy. "Nia Robinson," she said. "I can provide my certification number." She reached toward her. Wallet, slow, deliberate, so no one could claim she grabbed anything else. Graham's expression tightened because the story he'd tried to write was about to meet official documentation he couldn't control. First class didn't feel like luxury anymore. The boy's breathing had improved, but it was still fragile, like panic kept trying to climb back into his throat. Nia stayed kneeling beside him, low and non-threatening, hands visible, voice soft. She didn't touch him unless she had to. She guided him with pace, not force. Lillian hovered near the aisle, eyes wet, jaw tight. Fear made her shake. Pride made her sharp. A few steps behind her stood Graham Kells, arms folded, posture calm, expression built for optics. The intercom clicked. "Cabin crew," the captain said. "Identify the qualified responder assisting the passenger." The lead flight attendant leaned in with her tablet like it was a badge. "Name," she demanded. "Nia Robinson," Nia answered. "Steady." "Certified emergency responder. Active credential." Graham stepped forward immediately, voice smooth and loud enough for witnesses. "Captain, she is flagged for safety reasons. She caused a disturbance at the gate. I strongly advise you do not allow—" "I did not ask for your advice," the captain cut in, tone flat and final. "I asked for the responder's identification." The aisle went silent. Nia kept her eyes on the boy. "Look at my fingers," she murmured. "In and out. Good." His gaze locked onto her hand. He copied the rhythm, shallow but real. The lead attendant's face stayed hard. "Proof," she said. Nia reached toward her backpack slowly, pausing so no one could twist the motion into a story. She pulled out a slim wallet and slid out a plain laminated card. No shiny seal, no dramatic reveal. Just her name, her number, and the kind of authority that matters only when someone is losing air. She held the card up for the attendant to read without taking it. "I'm also in the National Registry," Nia added. "I can recite the number from memory." Lillian's disbelief turned instantly into contempt. "Oh, so now she's certified. Anyone can print a card. Get her away from my son." Her volume made the boy flinch. His breathing hitched again. Nia looked up, eyes steady. "Lower your voice," she said. "He's reacting to noise." "How dare you?" Lillian started. Nia didn't raise her voice. She lowered it. "Do you want him calm, or do you want to be right?" The question landed like a door closing. Lillian swallowed and stepped back half a pace, hands trembling at her sides. The lead attendant's fingers moved fast over the tablet, pulling up verification. She spoke into the handset, careful. "Captain, we're checking the registry." Graham leaned toward her, trying to keep his influence alive. "Document her behavior. She's been escalating all day. This is exactly what she wants, an opportunity to insert herself into first class." Nia answered without heat. "I was cuffed for offering help," she said. "I was flagged for refusing to disappear quietly. If you punish help, that's not safety. That's corporate negligence." A man across the aisle, gray-haired and tired, leaned out. "She's right. I saw how they treated her at the gate." Graham's smile tightened. Everyone remained calm. "The crew is handling it." "Handling it?" the gray-haired man repeated. "He's barely breathing." The boy coughed, wet, deep, then tried to inhale and failed. His eyes widened with fresh panic. Nia moved closer, still careful. "Hey," she whispered. "Nothing bad is happening. One breath with me." The oxygen attendant hovered, uncertain. Nia nodded once. "Bring the mask near his face. Don't push it. Let him choose." The attendant obeyed. The boy stared at the mask, then at Nia's fingers. He nodded faintly and took a shaky oxygen-assisted breath. The cabin exhaled with him, a ripple of relief moving seat to seat. The lead attendant's expression shifted. Not warm, not apologetic, just corrected by the facts in her hand. She lifted the handset like she was reading a verdict. Captain, registry confirms, Nia Robinson, credential active, training verified, cleared to assist. Silence snapped into place again, deeper this time, like the cabin itself recognized the moment. Lillian stared at Nia as if the world had rearranged without her permission. The picture she'd painted, poor girl, problem, threat, couldn't survive the word active on an official screen. Graham's jaw flexed. He didn't argue now. He simply looked for a way to control the next chapter. The captain's voice returned, firmer than before. Responder Robinson, you are authorized to assist. Cabin crew will support you. Any interference will be documented as obstruction of medical assistance. Obstruction. The word changed everything. If Graham pushed, he wouldn't look protective. He would look guilty. Lillian's voice came smaller, stripped of theater. I just wanted him safe. Nia kept her tone even. Then help him be safe. That starts with quiet. Lillian's eyes filled. She nodded once, stiffly, and forced herself back into her seat. Nia returned to the boy. You're doing good, she murmured. In, out. That's it. His shoulders lowered, his hands unclenched from the blanket. He blinked at her, exhausted, and whispered, raspy and tiny. Thank you. The words hit Nia harder than the cuff had, not because she needed gratitude, but because she could feel the unfairness underneath it. She had been treated as dangerous until she became useful. She steadied herself with the sentence her mother used when life got loud and cruel. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Psalm 34:18. The lead attendant crouched beside Nia again, voice changed. Less sharp, more practical. What do you need? Dim the lights in this section if possible, Nia said. Keep oxygen ready. Speak one at a time and document everything from the start. Every restriction, every threat, every name. The attendant hesitated, then nodded. Understood. Graham's eyes flicked to the tablet. He could see the report forming, line by line, in a place he couldn't edit. And Nia could feel something forming too. The beginning of legal accountability. Because a verified credential doesn't just save a child, it exposes a lie. If you've ever been falsely labeled or treated like your dignity was optional, don't look away. Subscribe and stay with Dignity Voices, because the report they tried to use against her is about to become the evidence that breaks them for every viewer who knows pain. And when the wheels finally touched down, Graham didn't walk off like a VIP. He made a cold call and said 5 words that turned the jet bridge into a trap. Have airport security meter. The wheels hit the runway with a firm thump, and applause rolled through the cabin for everyone to see. For most passengers, landing meant escape. For Nia, it meant the moment humiliation could turn into paperwork, and paperwork could turn into punishment. Up front, the boy's breathing was steadier now, but still fragile, like panic could surge if the world got too loud. Nia stayed near him at eye level, speaking in small, calm pieces. 1 breath, 1 sip. You're okay. She guided with rhythm, not force, the way she'd learned in cramped clinic hallways where fear moved fast. Across the aisle, Graham Kells held his phone to his ear. He angled away, but his words carried in the hush of first class. Gate arrival, he murmured. I want airport security at the jet bridge. Meet her, not my family. Her. The captain's voice came over the speakers, crisp and controlled. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be at the gate shortly. Please remain seated until the seatbelt sign is off. Then, quieter to crew, secure the forward cabin. When the aircraft stopped, the seatbelt sign clicked off and the cabin sprang to life. Bins popping, shoulders turning, people grabbing bags like lifelines. In first class, movements were smoother, practiced, as if even urgency had rules. The lead flight attendant crouched beside Nia, her tone less sharp than before, but still guarded. He can deplane with assistance, she said, glancing at the boy. Captain wants you to remain here until he speaks with you. I will, Nia replied. She looked at the boy. You did good. Keep your breathing slow. Lillian Vance stood and adjusted her designer shawl, trying to rebuild control. Her eyes flicked to Nia, conflicted, uneasy, then away. She didn't apologize. She didn't thank her. She simply pulled her son closer and whispered, Come on. Graham rose too, already smiling like a host. The aircraft door opened and cold jet bridge air rushed in. 2 uniformed officers appeared at the threshold, then 2 more behind them. Their posture wasn't curiosity, it was assignment. Officers, Graham said pleasantly, stepping forward before crew could. Thank you for coming. We have a passenger who needs to be escorted. The nearest officer's eyes tracked down the aisle and stopped on Nia. Ma'am, he said, step onto the jet bridge. Nia rose slowly, hands visible, movements deliberate. I'm the medical responder who assisted the passenger, she said evenly. What's the reason for this escort? Reported incident, the officer answered, then glanced at Graham as if for the rest of the script. Nia nodded once. State the allegation clearly and record my statement. If I'm being detained, say that too. Graham sighed, irritated by her composure. There she goes again, he said, loud enough for nearby passengers, turning everything into a performance. Nia didn't look at him. She looked at the officer. I'm not refusing, she said. I'm requesting clarity. That's a basic right. Step onto the bridge, the officer repeated. Nia walked, not because she was afraid, but because she refused to be framed as resistant. A few passengers slowed to watch. A phone lifted. Someone muttered, This is wrong. On the jet bridge, the air was colder and the space narrower. 2 officers positioned themselves beside Nia, close enough to control her path. Am I being detained? Nia asked. We're conducting an inquiry, the officer said. That's not an answer, Nia replied calmly. Am I free to go? Graham stepped onto the bridge behind the officers, careful to stay half a pace back so he could look uninvolved. She was flagged at the gate, he said. Disruptive, non-compliant. I want her identified and removed. From our airspace. Nia turned her head slightly so her voice carried. I was flagged for offering help, she said. I was verified by the registry. The captain authorized my assistance. That's in the aircraft log. One officer blinked, uncertainty flickering. The captain authorized it? Yes, Nia said. Confirm with him. And confirm who requested this escort. Graham's smile sharpened. Captain doesn't run airport security. Captain runs the aircraft, Nia answered. And the log is evidence. A new voice entered the corridor, older, firm, unmistakably in command. That's correct. The captain stepped onto the jet bridge in full uniform, shoulders squared, eyes sharp. The lead flight attendant followed, tablet in hand. The captain looked directly at the officers. This passenger is the certified responder who stabilized a medical emergency. I requested assistance. I authorized her movement. Any claim she interfered is inaccurate. Graham tried to keep control with a polite edge. Captain, with respect, she was flagged. I'm aware, the captain cut in. And I'm aware of who initiated that flag. Silence tightened. The officers glanced at one another. Our call came in as a removal request, one officer admitted. Then it came from the wrong source, the captain replied. If you need statements, take them. But she is not to be detained without cause, and I want your badge numbers documented. The lead flight attendant lifted her tablet. Timestamps are logged, she said. Registry verification, too. Nia exhaled once, steadying herself. I'll give a statement, she told the officers. But I will not be treated like a suspect for answering a medical call. The officer's posture softened. Ma'am, you're not under arrest, he said. We'll take a brief statement for documentation. Good, Nia said. She met Graham's eyes at last, not with anger, but with clarity. You tried to trap me where there were no doors. Graham's jaw tightened. You're choosing her over the brand, he hissed at the captain. The captain answered, loud enough for the corridor to hear. "No, I'm choosing the truth over your convenience." As Nia began speaking into the officer's body cam, calm facts, exact times, exact words, she realized the jet bridge trap had failed. But the attempt itself created something Graham couldn't buy. A record. And once there was a record, the next phase wouldn't be embarrassment. It would be collapse. The jet bridge didn't feel like a hallway anymore. It felt like a boundary. Nia finished her statement into the officer's body cam with the same calm she'd used to steady a child's breathing. Clean facts, no trembling, no extra emotion for anyone to twist. Times, words, names, who touched her wrist, who ordered what, who tried to frame help as threat. When she stopped speaking, the corridor sounded different, less like tension, more like consequence. The captain took his turn next, voice firm and clipped. "Responder Robinson acted under my request and my authorization," he said. "Any delay in access to the patient increased risk." He didn't embellish. He didn't accuse. He simply stated the kind of sentence that lives forever inside a report. Graham tried to smile his way back into control. He straightened his cuffs, stepped closer to the officers, and softened his tone as if everyone had overreacted. "Gentlemen, we're all tired," he said. "A complaint was made, and procedures were followed. Let's not turn this into a spectacle." The captain stared at him like a man reading a wrong answer. "Procedure doesn't cancel truth," he said, "and it doesn't override my authority on my aircraft." That line shut the jet bridge down. Even the air felt still. Nia watched Graham's face, not for anger, but for calculation. He was already moving to the next play. Bury it, blur it, label it misunderstanding, then walk away clean. Nia recognized the strategy because she'd seen it before in other places, clinics, schools, offices, where the person with the most power also held the pen. So she did the thing that turns a moment into a case. "I want the records preserved," Nia said, steady and clear. "Gate camera footage, the flight reports, the note that flagged my ticket, the call that brought security to the bridge. Preserve everything." One officer hesitated. "Ma'am, that's handled by the airline." "That's why I'm saying it now," Nia replied, "because evidence has a way of disappearing when it's inconvenient." The lead flight attendant stood nearby with her tablet, face tight. She looked like someone who had followed an instruction and just realized she'd been used as a tool. Her eyes flicked to Graham, then to Nia. "We can mark the report. For retention," she said carefully. Graham snapped toward her. "You're not giving her anything." The attendant swallowed. "Medical incidents require documentation and retention." Graham's voice sharpened. "I'm telling you—" The captain stepped half a pace forward. Not loud, not dramatic, just final. "You're done directing my crew," he said. Graham froze, then forced a small laugh that didn't match his eyes. "Captain, let's be reasonable." "I am," the captain replied. "Reasonable means the truth is recorded." The officers exchanged a look, their posture shifting from escort to observe. One of them cleared his throat. "We'll document all parties and forward the report to airport operations," he said. "If footage is requested, it will be preserved per protocol." Graham nodded too quickly, too smooth. "Excellent. Exactly what I wanted." Nia didn't argue. She didn't celebrate. She simply let the words sit in the corridor like a weight Graham couldn't lift. In the terminal, the fluorescent lights made everything look harsher than it should. Passengers poured off the aircraft in a steady stream, and a few slowed when they saw Nia standing beside uniformed officers and the captain. Phones rose again. Not to gawk now, but to capture a different truth. Not a problem passenger, but a quiet young woman holding her ground. A man from the back rows approached first, tired eyes behind reading glasses. "I recorded what happened at the gate," he said. "The part where he told them to flag you. If you need it, I'll send it." A woman in a denim jacket stepped up next. "I caught his voice in the cabin," she said, saying not her. "Like you were dangerous just for standing up." Another passenger, older, clutching a rosary, didn't offer video. She offered her hand. "You kept your spirit," she whispered. "Don't let them steal it." Nia held her hand for a heartbeat and felt her lungs finally loosen. She wasn't looking for applause. She was looking, quietly, for witnesses, because witnesses are what turn a powerful lie into a weak one. Across the concourse, Graham moved fast, phone pressed to his ear, voice clipped and urgent. "Corporate communications," he snapped. "Now! This has to be contained." Contained. The word exposed him. If nothing happened, there'd be nothing to contain. Nia watched him disappear through a door marked "Authorized Personnel Only," and something settled in her chest. The old, steady truth that shame can be loud, but it can't outrun daylight. She whispered the sentence she'd been carrying like a lantern. "For nothing is hidden that will not be made manifest." Luke 8:17. Then she turned toward the airline service desk and walked. Not angry, not frantic, not begging. Filing, documenting, requesting retention, asking for an incident reference, a supervisor, a written acknowledgement. The agent's smile faltered as Nia laid the reference number down like a stone. Behind Nia, a small line formed. Passengers from the flight, one by one, stepping into place with their phones and their names, ready to attach their statements to hers. Quiet people, quiet courage. The captain handed Nia a small card with his employee number and a direct extension. "If anyone tries to rewrite this," he said, "call me." The lead attendant added her initials to the report in front of Nia's eyes. Ink on glass. No takebacks. Just proof that the sky had witnesses. Right here. Today. And somewhere behind that authorized personnel door, Graham was learning the one thing privilege can't purchase. Once a record exists, it travels. It moves through compliance, through leadership, through review, until the company has to choose what it loves more, comfort or truth. Nia didn't know how far it would go yet, but she knew this. The story was no longer his to edit. It belonged to the record. The story didn't explode in one headline. It spread the way truth spreads when it has timestamps. Slow at first, then unavoidable. 3 days after the flight, Nia sat at her small kitchen table with the incident reference number on a sticky note, her wrist still tender when she pressed too hard on the keys. She uploaded witness videos, requested preservation of gate footage, and asked for the flight log. She wrote facts, not feelings, because feelings get dismissed and facts get filed. On the 4th day, an unknown number called. "Ms. Robinson," a composed voice said, "this is the airline's customer advocacy office. Executive leadership would like to speak with you." Nia didn't celebrate. "Send it in writing," she replied. The email arrived within an hour. A meeting invite, a legal representative, and a polished paragraph about regret. Nia read it twice and noticed what wasn't there. No names, no accountability, only a careful attempt to soften a hard event. 2 days later, she walked into a glass conference room downtown. Across the table sat counsel, compliance, and communications. A slide deck waited on the screen. In the corner, a folder label glowed like a confession. Reputation management. "We're sorry you felt disrespected," the communications executive began. Nia looked up. "I didn't feel it. It happened." Compliance cleared her throat. "We reviewed the incident. There were failures in judgment and escalation." "Whose failures?" Nia asked. A silence. Then counsel said, "Mr. Kells is on administrative leave pending review." "Pending means protected," Nia answered. "I was treated like a suspect for answering a medical call." The attorney slid paper forward. "We can offer a settlement agreement, compensation, therapy coverage, and a mutual non-disparagement clause." Nia didn't touch the paper. "I'm not trading quiet for comfort." Communications leaned in, voice smooth. "Public statements can be complex. We have to consider the brand." "That's the point," Nia said. "If you care about the brand, prove it with change. Don't bury me under legal language." She laid out her terms like a checklist. end the security vendor relationship that used restraints as intimidation. Rewrite the flagging protocol so a complaint can't become punishment without corroboration. Require medical response decisions to prioritize capability and proximity. Mandate bias training with measurable consequences, and create an independent audit path so reports can't be reframed by insiders. Compliance's expression tightened, then softened into something like respect. "You want systemic correction," she admitted. "I want the next passenger protected," Nia said, "including the one who looks like me." A week later, the airline released a video statement. The CEO appeared without a dramatic set, just a neutral wall and a direct gaze. "We failed a passenger," the CEO said. "We allowed misuse of procedure to override dignity and medical urgency. To Ms. Robinson, we offer an executive apology. We are implementing reforms to prevent this from happening again." It wasn't poetry. It was responsibility, and it was public. Then the changes arrived in writing. Termination of the contractor involved in improper restraint threats. Revised guidance stating that captain-authorized medical responders cannot be blocked by cabin status. A new escalation standard requiring documentation and supervisor confirmation before a passenger can be flagged. And quarterly reviews led by compliance with published metrics. The press release included a phrase Nia reread twice: brand accountability. The airline also agreed to fund a training partnership with community clinics and responder programs, and to publish a clear escalation ladder that crew could not interpret through bias. When counsel asked again for silence, Nia answered, "Truth doesn't need secrecy." She signed only after the reform timeline was attached to the settlement agreement as enforceable terms, with penalties if deadlines were missed. Compliance added an external ombuds line for passengers and crew, and the CEO's office committed to quarterly audits reviewed by an independent civil rights advisor, with public reporting. The communications executive called it repair. Nia called it prevention. "If you call this change," she said, "let it be measurable." The final email came last, short and unromantic. "Mr. Kells's separation is effective immediately." No glowing farewell, no quiet transfer, a line in a record. 1 month later, Nia returned to the airport, not to relive pain, but to refuse fear. Near the gates, she saw a new support station, sensory tools, a calm light corner, and a poster that listed passenger rights in plain language. A gate agent knelt beside a child who was spiraling, speaking slowly, keeping the crowd back. Nia watched for a moment, then exhaled. Reform looked like small things done correctly. As she turned, she saw Lillian across the concourse. The designer confidence was still there, but it sat lower now, less weapon and more weight. Lillian approached alone and stopped at a respectful distance. "I was wrong," she said quietly. "I let my pride talk louder than my son's need." Nia held her gaze. "He needed air, that's all." Lillian swallowed. "He asks about you. He says you made it quiet." "Teach him to make it quiet for others," Nia replied. "That's how you repay me." Lillian nodded, eyes wet. "I'm sorry." Nia didn't punish her with silence. "Thank you for saying it," she answered, and then she walked away. Because forgiveness isn't denying harm. It's refusing to carry it like a weapon. That night, Nia opened her Bible beside the same laptop and traced the verse that had steadied her in the terminal. "For nothing is hidden that will not be made manifest." Luke 8:17. The world tried to label her a problem, but God turned her into a witness. If you've ever been judged before you were known, remember this: dignity is not something people grant. It's something you guard. Justice doesn't always shout. Sometimes it arrives as policy, paperwork, and a system finally corrected. And if this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with Dignity Voices, because the next story might sound like fiction until you realize how many people have lived it.